And welcome, everyone. My name is Kevin Thomas Tully, and I'm here today with a legend in the sales industry, Miles Austin. And Miles Austin has more than 3 decades of experience in B2B sales and leadership roles. Each day, Miles helps sales leaders understand and implement evolving technology that's popping up in the selling space. He shares his wealth of knowledge about strategies, tactics, and tools that are being used throughout sales organizations. Miles' Fill the Funnel blog focuses on web tools for salespeople. He writes from a B2B perspective, but not every blog post is about a tool, as you'll discover during today's conversation. Miles, he's received more accolades than I can list here today. And I'd like to personally welcome a man who I consider a friend and a mentor. So welcome, Miles. And it's great to speak with you today.
Thanks, Kevin. Glad to be here. And I always am embarrassed going through those intros. It's all I know is I am a guy that loves what I do and I work hard at it. And after listening to you, I think I've been working at it a long time.
Well, we're both a little long in the tooth compared to the space that we operate in. And even that space, you're known in that space as the web tools guy, for anyone who doesn't know you. So can you shed a little light on that? Can you tell us about the origin of that nickname? I mean, who gave it to you? Do you feel comfortable referring to yourself as that?
Let me tell you the story. As you know, I speak and I travel all over North America and have been doing that now for about 8 years since I started Fill the Funnel after leaving the business corporate community in sales and sales leadership. And over the first year or so, as I was writing about these web tools, I'd be in different luncheons and meetings with people in the audience, etc. And a couple times I heard someone in a conversation, not directly with me, but they were talking about, now what was that guy in this morning's session? The guy that was talking about whatever the tool was, what was, the web tools guy. And then hopefully they would say, oh yeah, that was Miles Austin. And even though my name is somewhat unique and somewhat distinctive, regardless of the football player now by the same name, what I started to hear, and I am a big fan of listening, and I kept thinking to myself, if that's how they remember me, then who am I to correct them, right? And then I started to say, okay, let me capture that and incorporate that into everything from my headline on my LinkedIn profile, etc. And guess what happened? I became known as that, not because I claimed it, but because other people referred to me that way. And I listened to my audience, I listened to my readers and my subscribers, and that's what they were referring to me as. And then, strange as it might seem, that became the way to find me on Google, on LinkedIn, and everywhere else. You can look for sales tools guy and all the, sales tools and B2B sales or sales speakers and all those things. But if you want to find me and you simply go to any of those capabilities and type in the web tools guy, I know who's coming out on top of that list. And so it served me very well. So to answer your question directly, I listened to people who had just heard me or read my stuff, and they were calling me, what was that guy's name? Oh yeah, the web tools guy.
Well, I guess they could have called you something worse, and so you should be happy about that.
Some of them have.
That's funny. Now, do you feel any pressure living up to that nickname? I mean, there's thousands, literally, and new tools are being created every day. I mean, do you feel the pressure to have to be always on the cutting edge and knowing every tool that comes out just to live up to that nickname that people bestowed on you, Miles?
No, and I think probably the reason, Kevin, is I don't feel the pressure because no human being can know every tool, right? I never have made the claim that I know all the tools. What I try to make a difference in what I do versus a lot of other people, and I think we'll talk about social and the whole environment, but tools in general, I think the difference, what I bring to my readers and to my subscribers and to my audiences is I've been in the street. I've been walking as a B2B sales guy. I've carried a bag. I've carried a quota. I've led a management of a team. I've literally led large organizations. When I left Dell, I had 300 inside salespeople in large corporate accounts. I mean, I've been in all of those roles. I've started 3 of my own companies that were technology sales companies. I've grown them. I was with a company that went public. So I've walked in the path of all of these things. And what I know is I never will make a claim that I'm going to know them all. But what I think I do really distinctly and differently is I'm able to say, here's this shiny object over here, this cool new tool. And a lot of times I learned about a new tool today in a meeting with a gentleman that I had met online. I'd never heard of before. So it's great. I'm going to learn it. But what's going to be different about what I do, I'm not just going to say, here's the tool, you push a couple buttons and it spins and whirs and flashes lasers out. What I'm going to do is say, here's kind of the basic function. Go learn more yourself about it. But I'm going to say, now here's a couple thoughts about how you could apply this in your sales career or apply it in your sales organization. And I think it's that connecting the dot between the shiny object and the business need that really helps me stand out from the crowd. Because most people, when I walk into a room, I know one of 3 things from a confidence standpoint. Call it cocky. I know they probably aren't going to have the depth of knowledge about the number of web tools. I know they don't have my depth of experience in the sales and sales leadership roles. I know they haven't gone through taking a company public, working with Fortune 100 companies. I know they haven't done all those things, and it's that combination that gives me the confidence to go out and be able to serve my clients, my readers, and my subscribers.
That's outstanding. I know what you mean about shiny objects. I fall prey to them. All you have to do is wave something that just glows in front of me, and I just want it. I don't care what it does or if it's going to be applicable. I've got to have it. So I can really appreciate what you're saying right there, Miles. So given your vast experience with sales representatives and sales teams, what are you seeing out there that individual sales representatives and sales teams, what are they doing wrong in their selling process today? And, what would you do to fix it?
Wow. I think you'll agree that every organization is going to have a different answer. Mm-hmm. But let me just kind of step back a moment and just say a couple of the key things. One of the key things I see is already been addressed a little bit, and that is there are literally thousands of tools, thousands of social media platforms, thousands of speakers out touting whatever these things are. So I would say if there's one thing that sales reps and sales teams are struggling with right now, or they're really, what do I do? It's to try to not follow those shiny objects. When I go into a consulting arrangement with a client for the first week or 2, I won't even talk tools. I'm literally going to learn where they are as an organization, their culture, their budget, the size, their market, their industry, what kind of customers they have. Is it B2B? Is it inbound, outbound, et cetera? I'll learn all of that. But then really what I want to do is say, okay, based on that, either you as an organization can go out and go interview 30 different CRM vendors, or you can hire me, let me go do the work after what I've just learned about your organization, and I'm going to come back and usually say, this is the company I'd recommend. Sometimes I'll come back with 2 options. I try not to come back with more than 2 unless there's some extenuating situation coming. Maybe there's a brand new company that hasn't been released yet, but I've been working with them in a beta or something. So, but it's really just to focus in on what my need is. As an example, we do an annual survey every year for our readers and our subscribers that fill the funnel. And the number one item, the question is, what's the biggest challenge you have right now in your sales activity, in your sales career, or in the part of a manager, your sales organization? Every single time for the last 3 years anyway, number one item on the list, I need more customers, right? So and I think generally, I mean, I've never met a salesperson that says I have too many, right? But I think it's really symptomatic because there is great opportunity out there now, but we're all kind of, as an organization, we're all kind of running around trying out this CRM and that social tool, and we're trying this and that, and we're so scattered, we're taking the eye off the ball. So I guess when someone would say, but just give me one, and again, this is very high level because every organization is different in their maturity, et cetera, is just to say, tell me exactly with complete confidence the goal is that you want to either achieve or fix. Focus on it. Whether you bring me in or anyone else, or you do the work yourself, identify the solution that fixes or addresses or solves that specific problem, and then move on to the next shiny object, right? But I'm sure in your experience as well, I walk into companies that have 8 or 9 of these different things going on in trials and different reps doing different things. And as long as it's just to kind of learn, that's fine. But you're doing testing with live salespeople with quota to hit, and then the management team can't figure out, why are we not hitting our number? Because they're all doing 2 or 3 different Twitter tools or CRM apps, or what, writing blog posts or whatever it might be. So focus on one, prioritize your challenges, say that's the one we want to hit first, and then attack it either with bringing someone in that can bring the tool based on what they learned, or go search them all yourself if you got that kind of time, and very frankly, that kind of patience.
Do you think that's fair for sales managers or sales management to do that kind of live A/B testing?
I've done it. What I found many times, again, because of the understanding that no sales manager in the world ever is going to have all the knowledge about all these tools, right? They might have knowledge about how to do the best job in leading their sales team for their company, but that's it. And so I many times would encourage reps that worked for me in the early days of tools, way before there's Twitter and all the social things that are now added to it. And I'd tell them, if you use them, I would actually subsidize them. And I think back in the day, it was $50. I'll reimburse you $50 a month out of company funds, so just expense it and I'll pay for it, for you to go try and experiment with these new tools, these new abilities. If you find one that works, who do you think is going to be the first one that's going to notice it? Me as their manager, because I'm going to watch his or her numbers going up or going down or staying the same. And when I find one of my sales reps and she's out there just starting to kill it, if she doesn't come to me and say, by the way, this little $30 a month thing I'm doing is really helping me, I'll be knocking at her cube door going, tell me what's going on here. You found something that's really working. Help me understand it. And if it makes sense, we'll then roll it out into the organization. But I'm all in favor of testing. I test probably more than any person I know online, in everything from websites to emails to email headers to signature lines to LinkedIn posts. I mean, you name it, I test it all. But I think you have to eventually say, let's take one and run with it.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Now, earlier you mentioned speaking. I mean, and currently you're on tour speaking with several noteworthy sales figures. Jeb Blount, Mark Hunter, Mike Weinberg, there's Anthony Iarino, there's John Spence. And, a good number of these sales figures, they eschew social selling. And I'd like to know, because I'm a big proponent of social selling, and I know the gentleman that we didn't name today that you met in person, who were both as a mutual friend of ours, Jack Kozakowski, is a proponent of social selling as well. Where do you stand on it? And I define social selling, of course, as leveraging social media to generate revenue. What's your position about that term? Are you a believer? Do you practice it, Miles?
Well, first of all, thank you for defining it, because I think that's the root issue. I'm a semantics guy, and I think, very frankly, I hate social selling as a term. I don't hate what you do in social selling as some people define it. Your definition, I think, is very succinct. Let me give you an example here. Let me give you a definition. This was just on my screen within the last few days, from one of those social selling companies that says they're the biggest in the world and they're cool and they kick butt and all those things, which is part of my problem, right? Because I know it's just a bunch of baloney. But here's their definition of social selling. Let me just read it to you, and it'll only be about 30 seconds or so. And I want you to listen for what isn't mentioned in this definition that they sent off to everyone that subscribes or reads their stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Social selling is when the individual salespeople in an organization use social media, such as LinkedIn, to connect and interact directly with their buyers. These individuals provide value by answering questions and offering thoughtful content until prospects are ready to buy. The stated purpose of social selling is to widen the opportunity to engage with buyers. effectively grow the sales pipeline, and enhance product marketing reach. Social selling, I'm almost done. Social selling would include sales and account rep activities focused on the following areas: posting, sharing, group interaction, content curation, and blogging. Okay, that's the definition, and that came from a chief marketing officer of one of the, quote, leading social selling organizations, they say, in the world. I say in their backyard, but another story.
I
What didn't you
say
hear?
I heard the definition of social media marketing, because the object of sales is to produce revenue, and social selling is just using social media to produce revenue, in my book. And that's what I said. My definition of social selling is leveraging social media to generate revenue. I didn't hear one word about generating revenue. Sales equals revenue. You have a quota for a reason, and the reason is to generate profitability for your company.
Yeah, you hit on exactly why I get so frustrated. Again, I'm a believer that social media is a very powerful tool. By the way, all those fine gentlemen that you mentioned, I'll tell you right now that if you think that any one of them is not using social media in an aggressive, successful way, they tell you you're crazy. They love it, they use it, and it helps them grow their business. But what they are not in favor of is the flapping lips that always will be out there saying, well, social selling is, and if you do X and Y and Z, your revenue is going to go up. Because you pointed it out, the definition of social selling that I just read to you, not one time was the word selling, let alone revenue, even mentioned. I'm a lifelong sales guy. I can't get it out of my system. I never want to. Selling is about selling. It's not about blogging. It's not about posting. It's not about sharing and group interaction. Those are all parts of the selling process and the sales cycle. But I've got to sell, and most importantly, I believe that selling will always require, I need your business. Could I have your business? May I have your business? In other words, I need to ask for a sale. I tell people all the time, look, I do lots of things online, and I generate a nice portion of income from online activity. And when I tell people, they say, well, is that selling? I said, no. I believe that anything that happens online from a website or that's marketing, and those are orders. And I believe that marketing can create an order. Sales creates a sale. And so I think the difference there is very clear. But because all this conversation about, quote, social selling, I believe, and I'd love to hear someone challenge me on this, that would be willing to have the argument. What those guys and what I have been saying for a long time, and there's others that have kind of jumped onto this, selling is selling. All these social tools, really, it's just, what are these social platforms? They're there to enhance the selling process. If you think you're going to replace it, if you think you're going to post, tweet, share, and blab all day or Periscope all day, and that's going to get you business, you're an idiot. And I'll just say it and point out, you're a fool if you think those things are going to make the difference. If you use them appropriately with a salesperson or a sales team that has been trained on core, basic, fundamental sales practices, they will have a tremendously positive impact. But I tell people, I have an expression all the time that the worst, fastest way to fail in sales is to give an untrained, new, or inexperienced salesperson all the tools they could ever dream on.
Wow.
Because what happens is, if I'm brand new and I don't know the core basic fundamentals of selling, now again, I'm in the B2B space, so let's wrap it with that a little bit. But if I don't have fundamental relationship, communication, and sales training under my belt, and you turn me loose with a marketing automation tool that's bringing in 200, quote, opportunities a week to me, what am I going to do? I'm probably going to fail 200 times a week at a rapid rate because I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned, Mark Hunter and Mike Weinberg and Jeb and Anthony and John and the gang, all they're saying is, guys, hold on a minute. Let's get the core fundamentals of sales down. And then, and that's part of why I think I'm a part of that group, is then let's bring in the stuff that Miles is talking about. But don't you dare give me a loaded marketing automation gun and pull the trigger unless I've got the training to know what I'm going to do with those leads when they come in.
Okay, well, I appreciate you clarifying that, because I was under I was misinformed, and I guess I didn't do my research, and that's shame on me, because everything that I had read, especially by Anthony, I'm not trying to single out Anthony, but I had always seen him just anti-social selling on his blog posts, and I'm glad you clarified that for me, because I understand from the perspective that you described that unless you have the core basics of selling down, it doesn't matter which tools you're using or which procedures or with which methodologies. If you can't sell, you can't sell at all. Yep. It doesn't matter what I give you.
You will fail. In fact, again, I just tell people, look, and I'll use Anthony just as an example. The guy posts every day. Mm-hmm. He tweets every day. He posts on Facebook every day. The guy is all over the map. He's networking, he's promoting, he's doing all those things on social media. But I'll tell you what, when it comes time to close the deal, to ask for the business, to work with the client, to come to a positive conclusion that they agree they want to make, there's nothing better out there. Anthony and Mike and all those guys. And there's a bunch more out there. I think people understand that if I'm good at sales, that doesn't mean I'm manipulative. That doesn't mean I'm going to lie and cheat and trick you into something. It means I'm going to help you as a buyer who has something on their list. I need to buy X today to solve a problem. I'm not there to trick them. I'm there to help them. And if I know my job and I know my products and I know my industry, I can guide them to that conclusion. They're still free to make whatever decision they want. But if I've done a good job, they're going to say, Miles, thank you. I'm now better informed. I understand my options, and I want to go with product X. That might be me, it might not. But if I get to that level, I know I've done my job as a professional salesperson.
Okay. So you sound obviously like you've done your research about tools. You're very prepared about methodologies of sales. What would you say, Miles, is the one personal habit that's led to your success as an entrepreneur? I mean, can you share that with us?
Well, the one thing, there's so many, but I would say this. If I had one thing that I would never allow to be taken away from me, maybe that's the best way that I hold most cherished and near to my heart, mm-hmm. It would be the love of reading and learning. And I give that credit to my mom, but I tell you, I read at least 2 books a month. I'm on a couple of groups from some of the big publishers, and they mail me unsolicited the newest sales books that come out from McGraw-Hill and Riley and others. And I'm telling you, I just can't get enough of them, because I know one thing: I don't have all the answers, mm-hmm. but I also know when I hear something that will work for me, for my sales team, and in my environment. And I love learning from those other people. And so I would say, if there's one thing, I would say probably the love of reading.
Okay. So you've read a lot, you've learned a lot. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received, and who gave it to you?
I'd say sales advice. Let's say.
Okay, sales advice. Let's go with sales advice.
I got a lot of wise people that have influenced me over the years. But in sales, one of my first bosses, I was in the real estate business when I was still in college. Okay. And Rex Halleck was his name. He's no longer with us. What great guy, had been in the business a long time. He was the broker in Fort Collins, Colorado for Wheeler Realty. And Rex told me in the first week, 2 things he said. He goes, do you want to be successful? Oh, yeah, I was an athlete. Oh, yeah, rah, rah, rah. He said, I want you to do is sell nothing. And I kind of looked at him. He said, I want you to do is, for the first couple weeks here, don't talk, just listen. I want you to listen. Sit right pull up a chair next to the salespeople in this organization when they're in the office, which wasn't all the time, but when it was, I want you just to listen to what they're talking about. It might be to their wife, we don't know, but listen to what they're saying. Listen to how they handle it. When people come into the office to acquire, either they're going to sign a listing agreement or they want to write an offer on a house, get permission from the agent in advance and go just sit in the corner in our conference room. and listen and watch, right? And I did that. And I got to tell you, to this day, I get goosebumps because I learned so much. And what was exciting for me was I was so excited to go apply it, and I was scared to death to go apply it because I saw it working for them. And I thought, man, if I just do that, I'm going to be okay. And I was young. I was, geez, not even 22 years old yet when I was doing this. And so I was a young guy, not, who's going to buy anything from me or let me sell their house? And it worked because I started to understand, I need to understand from the buyer's perspective what it was they looked for, what they needed. And it's not always, I want a 3-bedroom house on such and such a street. What I started to learn was, what they said was, I want a comfortable home. I want safety for my family. I want a place that we can build a family. I started hearing those kind of things. I thought, wow. And that's when I started to realize I'm not here to sell 4 walls and a roof. I'm here to sell a lifetime of opportunity and experience for them. And if I get what their dream and their goal is, I can meet it. I can find a home that'll meet that in almost every case.
Okay. Yeah, that's really great advice, because it's what's the old adage? You don't sell the drill, you sell the hole.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I see that. So you do a lot of writing. Obviously, your Fill the Funnel blog is very well known. It's won a lot of awards. And recently you wrote a blog post, which I happen to love, but it could be termed a little controversial. I mean, you criticized LinkedIn's questionable data protection practices. You publicly stated that you're no longer going to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It costs $1,200 a year. I mean, how do you feel about the average salesperson using LinkedIn Sales Navigator? I mean, is it just simply a tool to monitor LinkedIn, or is there any value there? I mean, how does that all tie together with what LinkedIn's doing with their data practices and what they're trying to push out with their products? I mean, where do you see LinkedIn going and, their place when essentially they have a monopoly?
Yeah. Well, here's the good news. They don't. And that was really a part of my post. But what I complained about with LinkedIn was that what they're doing is all of the data that I have contributed and you've contributed, and all of this as business professionals, 350 million, whatever it is now, we have added content. We have added our contacts. In many cases, people go in when they join and they upload their contacts list from their email address book and everything else, right? So that's my data, the stuff that I entered anyway. And what started to happen was they've been very methodically taking away access to that information, down to the point when they not too long ago said, for a period anyway, you can't even download your own contacts anymore. And that was when I said, time out. Something smells wrong here. Now, they repealed that decision for a temporary time. And what they said was not, hey, sorry, we screwed up. They said, we're going to turn this back on for the time being until we come up with a better solution. That sucks. I'm sorry, Kevin, but I don't accept that. That's my data. And so, and then, we go through the whole thing with in-mails are more productive than regular emails. I'll just tell you from my own testing and my own experience, it's not true. I believe in-mails have become nothing but a spam mechanism that's been completely overused, and most of the people that I talk to might not even open it. They might not open it for a month, if they even open it at all. Things like groups have been destroyed. They're nothing but spam clusters, and they used to be great. They used to have a feature to ask questions and get answers, and you could answer questions or ask questions, and I learned a lot from that process. So there's a lot
in a group too.
Absolutely. And you could share and communicate, and I could connect with someone directly if they were in the same group I was in. All that stuff's been stripped away, unless in some cases you're willing to pay $100 a month for Sales Navigator. Exactly. I believe that's the mistake they're making, because here's what's happened. Companies like Nimble and SalesLoft and Conspire and a whole bunch of other companies, Rival IQ, there's a whole bunch of them that are tools that I think are really powerful tools that used to have an ability to connect into the LinkedIn data through my account for only my activity and give me information back that I was formatted and used in different ways. They shut that off for everyone pretty much, except for at the time I think 3 or maybe 4 companies. They had, they decided we're going to let Access be in existence for Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce.com, Oracle, whatever. There was 3 or 4 of them. Well, those products are great products, usually for an enterprise-sized customer. Most people in mid-sized business or smaller either aren't using CRM at all, or they're not using one of those because they're just too complex and too expensive. And all the rest of you, no more Access, cut off. Literally just shut them off. And I said, guys, that's wrong. Other companies like Salesforce, as an example, or Apple, or Google, or Microsoft now have gone the other side and said, let's go open up a marketplace where third-party tools and vendors can go plug into us, meet our quality standards, meet our rigid security requirements, and have at it. So if I'm in the funeral business, I could have an app that connects into LinkedIn that, would be really just focused on that industry, but I could use the data that your members, LinkedIn, have contributed voluntarily on their own in the past with an assumption that I'll have access to it in the future. So that was my beef, and it still is my beef, because I don't think it's going to get better. They keep buying companies, and then they either disappear or they get shrunk up or they get put behind the paywall, right? So that's really it. Is there value to Sales Navigator? There is. I mean, they do some great things. But I've had a couple of really smart people come to me after I wrote that post, and it was pretty interactive in the comments and the reaction to it, and said, okay, smarty pants, if you've shut off, you're not going to pay at all anything for LinkedIn, so I have a naked free account. That's all I have. Wow. I still use LinkedIn every day, but I just don't have I don't have the background header now and all the cool things. I don't have no more in-mails and all that. They said, so what are you going to do? I said, thank you. Great question, great challenge. So I'm putting together a sequence of what I've used Sales Navigator and LinkedIn for in the past, and going to third-party companies that can give me everything equal or better than what I get from a paid account or even a free account, doesn't matter, within LinkedIn. And say, if I go use, and I'll use an example, the one that was fresh on my mind. It's a company that just is blowing me away with what they're doing right now. In LinkedIn, there's that ability to get someone that you're connected to introduce you to someone you're not, right? Mm-hmm. You've used it. We've all taught it and said, hey, it's something that's there. It's pretty kludgy, very frankly. It's kind of confusing. People can't figure out on the sending side how to work it. On the receiving side, how do I respond? What I do with it? Do I know? Okay, I know that person. It's a second level connection. Do I forward this? What do I do? It's very confusing. Well, now I said, okay, is there a better way to do this? And guess what? Yes, there is. In my opinion, far superior. And this one is a company that gives you the ability, you connect your email address book, your social media stuff, whatever, you connect it. And without any downloads and all the funky stuff that LinkedIn tries to do, you say, I want to get to Kevin Thomas Tully, and you and I aren't directly connected. It goes through all of your contacts. It goes through your emails, very frankly, because you've connected them now, and said, okay, based on all of this information, I've got like 40,000 emails in there. It said, based on the knowledge and big data and data crunching this stuff and artificial intelligence and all the magic words, these are our recommendations for the best ways for you, Miles, to connect to Kevin through someone in the middle. And it not just says, okay, these are some names. It shows you a photo of me, whoever's the best connection in the middle, and you. In other words, who am I strongest connected to, and you are strongest connected to, that would be a good path directly through. And in some cases, that might not be the perfect one. Maybe there's a reason why, or maybe they're a current employee, and I don't want them to know that I want to talk to someone in a new, whatever it might be, right? So it gives you a list, and it gives you, as many as you want, but I've seen 20, 30 of them, of these connections. But better than that, it doesn't just visualize it for you. It gives you a very elegant way to say, hey, let's say that Barbara is in the middle. Hey, Barb, I have something I want to talk with Kevin Thomas Tully about. I really think this is something valuable for his company. And actually, you know what it is because you've been using this, and I know you've gotten value. You seem to be connected really strongly to him. Could you connect this or recommend this, right? I hit that button. It goes to Barb. Barb looks at it and says, I'm comfortable with that. Sends in the same form a little note, hits the send button, it goes to you. It's visual, it's transactional, and it's all transparent, elegantly done, and I haven't touched LinkedIn. That's just one example. There's a whole bunch of these functions. InMails, as an example. InMails, God, what a pain in the butt. You get 2 or 3 per month or something. Come on. If I'm good at my craft, if I can't write an email with a good, effective headline that someone's going to open, then they should take me out and put me on the retail floor, because I'm not in sales. I'm not in B2B sales anyway, right? So I don't need your, as the expression goes, I don't need no stinking InMails, right?
Yeah.
So again, look, it's a good tool. I love it. I've taught on LinkedIn for a lot of years. I still get requests. I just wrote a small ebook about the monster LinkedIn mistakes as an example. So it's still a valuable part of an arsenal. But I just think that unless they start to rethink some of their strategies, go read the post at Build a Funnel. I'm telling you, there were some really well-known people in there that are well-respected that said, amen, thanks for saying something. And these guys are going downhill quickly if they don't change the direction they're going.
I did read the post, and it's my second favorite one. And you know what my first favorite one is?
No, I'm afraid to ask.
Yeah. Let's just say it was an instant favorite or an instant classic. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, no, that was a fantastic post. And are you going to write about this new cadence that you're developing in lieu of Sales Navigator at some point? So okay.
Absolutely. Fantastic. In fact, I'm not only going to write about it, we'll give you each step of the way. We're putting together a program for training because, again, a lot of my work is working with individual companies, and they say, come on in, can you help my team, right? And so, again, some people learn best by reading, some people learn best by seeing, some people learn best by doing. So, kind of the strategy for me is to always say, okay, let's make sure I can cover it. If we believe in the value of this content, I got to give it to you in 3 ways. I got to give it to you audio, I got to give it to you in video, I have to give it to you in real life, and I'm going to give it to you in writing, because that's what Fill the Funnel is all about, is to share these things and stimulate your thinking.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you've hinted about a new tool that you're going to write about. And for those of you who are watching this video for the first time, don't know that Miles is an avid Harley Davidson enthusiast. So, other than your Harley, which is, of course, your favorite tool, what's the one tool you can't live without? It's the most valuable tool for sales professionals. Let's put it that way. In your opinion.
Wow. And I can't say the internet?
You cannot say the internet. That's a little too broad.
Yeah, okay. For an individual salesperson or for just a sales professional in general?
Well, why not both? Let's say both.
I mean, from my perspective, now remember, I don't have a quota today, right?
Right.
If you took away WordPress for me, I'd chase you down the street and I'd tie you up and I wouldn't let you go until I got it back. WordPress for me is the most revolutionary ability to impact the world that we've ever seen in any profession. Not all salespeople should be bloggers unless you really want to make a bigger impact than just your business, your company, or even your local area. But if I had to say, if it wasn't WordPress, because it's a lot more than just for blogging, right? Well, I would say short term, I would say probably right now, I'd probably say take them all, but leave me Twitter.
Okay.
And I like Twitter, and I would tell you the reason why primarily is I use it way more as a listening and a learning tool than I do as a talking tool. I do both, but if you just listen on Twitter, you will learn more in any given week than you'll learn in a month of going out and talking to people face to face. It's a powerful, unbelievable tool. And yes, there's a lot of tools that complement it, that add more value to it, make it easier, more in depth or whatever. But if you took away a tool, I think I'd probably miss Twitter the most today.
That's good. That's good. That's one of my favorites as well. Interesting. Very interesting. WordPress, I never would have expected that to come out of your mouth. But
yeah. Well, I think it's I think it is the most powerful tool on the market today, and it's free.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're well known as a speaker, as a teacher, as a trainer. When you're not selling, when you're not consulting, when you're not building businesses, when you're not using WordPress to blog, if you had, I'm going to ask you the lottery question. What is your dream job? I mean, what is it that you covet if you could do anything you wanted to do? I mean, you do enough as it is already, so you're practically doing everything. So I mean,
I hope no one listens to this interview because I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
But the fact is, I'm doing it, Kevin. I honestly, I mean, if things change, I'd love to go tour the country, maybe go buy a big old RV and travel, and I'll just schedule out the ability to meet with people all over the country, and I can write and I can talk, but I love meeting people. I love being on the road. That's why I like my Harley so much. But honestly, and I don't mean this to be just, the thing to say, I'm already doing what I love more than anything else in the world. And I guess the reason I can say that is if I have something I like more, I'd probably be doing it and say, see you later, guys. I just love this. This is a passion. It's a hobby. It's a lifetime learning opportunity that I can't get enough of. And until they put dirt over the top of me, I'm going to be talking about whatever this new tool is that I just came up across this morning.
That's fantastic. So why don't you tell our audience, Miles, how they can get in touch with you and what's the best way to contact you if they need to?
Well, they can stop by here at my place in North Bend, Washington, and just knock on the door and say, hey, I'm here for some coffee. Coffee pot's always on. But no, I think, the easy way, let me just pop up real quick. I'll pop up my the link here on the screen so you can get me there. Fill the Funnel is the best way to track any way to connect with me down. Go to the contact page, go to the about page. You'll learn all about me and the things I've done and some nice things that other people say. But on Twitter, I'm just Miles Austin. There's my email address. The blog, just go to fillthefunnel.com. And as someone said, there's more there than I probably want to know about any one person. So Fill the Funnel's good. Give me a call. My phone number, my direct phone number, directly to me, not through some answering services, right on the top of that blog. Click the button, call me, and unless I'm on the phone with you doing an interview or a customer, I'll pick up the phone and we're going to have a great conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Miles Austin. Miles, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, but I enjoyed it.